Hello, fellow splitting geniuses. Welcome and thank you for tuning in into Splitting Smart on Facebook Live. Split FYI brings candid and informative discussions with professionals who can help support you through a divorce or your splitting journey of any kind. Our goal is to provide you with the knowledge on various modalities of support that can help you to unhitch with fewer hitches. After all, we know knowledge is the antidote to fear. And today's guest brings us a wealth of knowledge in the world of communication and communication skills, which is often an unbearable and triggering task to accomplish around the holidays when you're dealing with exes and even ex-in-laws. I am Lila Aiken Ali, a divorcee, a divorce coach, and the co-founder of Split FYI.
I'm Heather Steer, co-founder of Split FYI, a certified divorce financial analyst and a divorce coach as well. Also a divorcee and mother of two, so very familiar with having to communicate with my ex through the holidays and looking forward to this. For those of you who have logged in to see our live today, you can put comments in our live chat. I will be monitoring that, and you can ask questions or specific scenarios as you listen to Andra's fantastic tips. She will, you might want to have something that you want to know more about. So today's guest is Andra Davidson. She is was a corporate communications VP turned certified divorce coach, which is gratefully where we got connected. And she helps the anxious and overwhelmed men and women minimize the impact of divorce on their kids and be healthy co-parents and show up as their best selves throughout the process and after the process into their future lives together. So welcome. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about your amazing practice. And
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and welcome to everybody who's joining. It's really a pleasure to be here. This is certainly a really important topic for so many people, for all of us. Really getting through the holidays can be extremely difficult. So I'm really happy to offer some practical tips in that department. As Heather said, my background is in communications. I've worked in branding, marketing, PR, crisis communications, which is, applicable for sure, for 25 years. And I myself went through a divorce about 7 years ago. And I like to say that I'm living my best and most amazing phase 2 right now, and that everybody out there, everybody deserves an amazing phase 2. And I believe that we all have the power to get there too. Part of the reason that I feel like communications are so important is because it's something that we all can have control over, our own communication throughout the divorce process. And it can be one of the most powerful and effective tools that you have in your divorce. And the amazing thing about that also is that it's free. It's ours. We don't have to go anywhere to get that. But what we do need to do is recognize how important it is and tap into it and use it to our benefit. And that can be hard, for sure. So it's very easy to just, fire off a text or respond in a way that, when you're triggered, and managing some of that can really, really help you get through your divorce in general, and certainly during the more difficult periods like the holidays.
100%. And so where do we start? Let's start with, I think we were talking about this earlier. I think a lot of people, obviously it's a triggering time, even if you don't have the traditions around the holiday season, you do know that a lot of other people do in your circle, in your inner circle. And the thought of not spending the time with your children is a tough one. So, and then hence the communication with your ex can become pretty toxic, right? Indeed. So what are some of the practices that you, you provide for your clients, or suggestions or tools?
Yeah,
that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. So the first thing I would say is if you're feeling anxious and stressed about the holiday season, is to sit with that and really figure out what is the actual trigger here for me. So you might assume it's, the holiday season, right? It's really easy just to say, like, I'm triggered by the holidays, and that's not incorrect. However, there's probably something specific. Is it an interaction, as you were saying, with your ex? Is it that you are afraid that you're going to be alone on a given day? Is it that you don't want to show up somewhere and run into somebody? If you can get specific about what that particular trigger or triggers are, frankly, there might be, more than one, that would be really normal, and write them down. That's such a good first step. Figuring out what that real thing is. And you'll know it when you hit on it. Your body will tell you that you found the right thing that is really causing you your stress and your trigger. So once you do that, I really like then to say, I'm going to make a plan around it. Get really specific. So let's take the example like that you were sharing of maybe being alone, not with your kids for the first time on the holidays, and they're going to your ex's house and you're really feeling sad or anxious about what you're going to do. It ties into the next piece of advice on that one, which is to ask for support. It's really, really hard to ask for support. And it's one of the things, though, that is an incredible tool in your divorce process, is to say to a friend or family member, can I join you this year? I would really love to be with you. Or set yourself up to travel somewhere if that's what works for you, so that you can be somewhere where you're not alone. But making a plan to deal with whatever those specific triggers are will start to give you some strength and reduce your anxiety, because you'll start to realize, you know what, I can do this. And I believe completely that we all have done hard things in our lives that we can draw on through this process too. It's not there. We got through other hard things in our lives, all of us, at some point. And there were skills we used to do that. What kind of skills did we use to do it? If you can give yourself the time to think through some of those things, what skills do I have? Am I organized? Am I willing to ask for help? Is it that I have a really great group of friends? Is it that my family wants to be there for me? Hopefully, yes, and more, or different ones. And tap into those so that you can solve for your particular issue. And then making a plan is just tremendous. So that's going to be one really important. Those are a couple important first steps to take. And then we can talk too about some communication specific, outreach, messaging, that kind of thing, if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, because I do know that often I hear, well, I'm really embarrassed and I'm, there's shame around it, and they probably have plans, and why would they want to be with me? And, I'd be like the third wheel, there's a constant, you're already saying it in your head, which without even asking. Right. And so it's getting into a mindset. I mean, I know for one, if my friend was going through something like this, I mean, I know I went through it, but even before, and they came to me and said, I really need your help. Like, I need to be with somebody.
Right.
I mean,
and wouldn't you have loved to help them, right? If they had asked.
Because a friend doesn't know all the time how to help, like, tell me how you want me to help you,
That's
and,
right.
But, what do you think of, and if you're too embarrassed to ask, there's that other thought process of maybe sending an email. And I know it's not, so there is that. I mean, I remember one of my friends sent an email out to everyone. This had nothing to do with divorce. It was something else. But she's like, I'm really feeling lonely and down, and I really could use some time with some of my friends. And she sent it out to all her good friends, right? To see if you guys are available. I really could spend time with you. And I thought that was brilliant, because she was too vulnerable to call us and tell us.
And it's brave. I love that. I think that's an amazing thing that she did. And, I love that suggestion in and of itself, a text or an email out to some key people. And the other way to approach that, and this is similar to how I approach sharing difficult news sometimes with people. Like, if you are telling people about a separation or a divorce and you don't want to have each individual conversation, is to choose somebody who you love and trust to be that voice for you in this situation. And you could do the same thing here. So, mine might be my sister. And I would say to her, I really am not up for all the conversation around where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing. Would you mind reaching out to a couple of my key people and asking if anybody, like has some plans that I could join this season so I'm not by myself, or would be willing to, call me and maybe make dinner, but I'm embarrassed to ask. Can you maybe ask on my behalf? And having that one person, that you really love and trust to make that ask on your behalf, if it feels like you were saying embarrassing, can be really helpful. And, it is, I've been there too. I remember those first holidays, how painful that was, and trying to imagine doing these things differently without the history and without the, family that I had worked so hard to build over all those years, right? And what does it look like now? And there is a sense of shame, unfortunately, that still is out there. But one of the things I love to remind people, and this is from Brené Brown's work, which I'm sure everybody knows, but is that shame can't hide in the light. Okay, shame can't live in the light. Excuse me, shame can't live in the light. So when we shine that light on our fears and we are put ourselves out there even a little bit in that vulnerable space and say, I'm struggling with this a little bit, I'd really love the support, the chances are that our friends are going to be so happy to be able to rally and support us. That's, when it's exactly what you were saying, Lila, when you turn the tables and you think about, wow, if my friend asked me, I want to help them. I want to be able to do something for them. So when you give them that opportunity, chances are they're going to really be grateful for it, and that they're going to want to step up and do something that brings you some relief and peace and happiness.
It's so interesting because when it comes to things like whether there's maybe a health crisis or a passing of someone, it's very common to employ those strategies of the family spokesperson and people knowing kind of what to do in those circumstances. And with divorce, I mean, we talk about this a lot in our community, that people don't know. And it is important that you communicate out to those friends and loved ones of what is it that you need. Right. People just don't know how to react. Like, should I say I'm sorry? Should I, depending on this.
What do I say? What do I do? Yeah, they don't know.
Do you want to be alone? Is it going to be too painful for you to be around someone else's family? So it's great to actually relieve people of that burden of guessing, at what it is that you need and want and will make you feel good. So that's
right. And it's hard sometimes. We don't always even know what we want and need, right? So that's where that initial work comes in too. When you figure out, it's much easier to know what you want when you figure out what your actual trigger is, right? If you're worried about going to a party, for example, let's just use this, and running into an ex, right? Or, your ex, or with a significant other or something, and you really are not mentally in the space where you think you can handle that. There are a couple choices you have, right? First of all, you always don't have to go to anything. Second of all, that is a choice. But if you do want to go, right, maybe you invite somebody that will have your back 100%. Maybe you drive your own car so you can leave when you want to, that you don't feel like you're stuck there if you're uncomfortable. That you set up someone to text you partway through if you are going to go, to check on you, to see how you are. So when you identify what the real issue is for you and what is causing you stress, that's when you are tapping into the tools to solve those real problems, instead of just saying, I'm anxious about the holidays, which is understandable and legitimate, but we're not always as able to solve for that as we are when you get into the more specific areas.
Right. Yeah. I think knowing your triggers is very important, particularly the first year to 2 years of going through the holiday seasons. And
right.
and ebbing and flowing, because one year you may have your kids on Thanksgiving and then the next year you don't. So the first holiday
That's
season
right.
might be okay, but then the second is actually where you're going to be like, whoa, I suddenly don't have my kids this
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
so that's really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And schedules change, you know, that's it to your point. When you've got a, you know, regular parenting situation in place, and then the holidays come, there can be some rearranging that has to happen, right? And there has to be a little bit of flexibility, and it can increase the opportunities for interaction with your ex that maybe you don't, you know, have on a regular basis much anymore. So that can be a source of stress, is figuring out, you know, how do I have these interactions and keep them productive and low conflict, right? And I'm going to go out on a limb here for people. I know this is a hard one, but I do encourage everyone to take the high road in their own communication. That if you are going to have an interaction with your ex, imagine just saying, have a good day, or happy Thanksgiving, or whatever it is. You might feel like I shouldn't have to do that, or, you know, he or she should say it first, but there are not really shoulds here that apply. And imagine if you did that and changed the tone of your conversations for the rest of this holiday season just a little bit. Somebody is always waiting for somebody else to be the grown-up, right? It can be really long wait sometimes. So sometimes you just decide you're going to be the grown-up and do it. And if it's hard to imagine doing that for the ex, himself or herself, if that's more than you want to swallow, do it for your kids, because it will change the tone and how they see you interacting with your ex. And honestly, there is no skin off your back when you just smile or wish somebody a good day or a happy holiday. And it may make you also feel better, that you're releasing some of that toxicity that's inside of you. You're letting that go by taking that high road and saying, you know, I can be the big person. It's not about their response. It's about how you feel about yourself when you do it. And that's the real difference. So I will really encourage everybody to see if they can try that on for size, if that has been a challenge in the relationship that you have in the past.
We always say, love your kids more than you hate your ex, and putting
Love
that
that.
energy forward is
That's right.
so much more powerful than the negative vacuum.
That's exactly right.
It's also really true to the fact that where where your energy goes is really what grows. And so when you start putting that energy towards something that's like, okay, I'm going to switch the communication into something that I kind of want to lead it down, right? Like, this is how I would love to be treated on the flip side. I would love to hear, have great Thanksgiving, or, you know, even to the fact that
That's right.
might open doors to say, hey, let's share some photos, and, you know,
exactly
moment. And so it is, you know, it definitely changes the energy if it can be
That's
done.
right. That's right. And that's right. If it can be done, of course, you know, these are general suggestions that you have to apply to your particular situation. However, you know, you are the person who knows the best what works in your life and your family. But sometimes we're so depleted by divorce and so, you know, overwhelmed that we're not necessarily even thinking of some of those options, which is why it's helpful to hear that there are other options. And, you know, this is where our friends can sometimes be our best friends and create some challenges. If they're angry at your ex, or they're trying to, you know, put messages out there that don't serve you, that can be really, really hard, because that energy, as you're talking about, can be as exhausting as anything else that you're going through. And it's hard to shut that down, but there are ways to do that with love too, to say to your friend, like, I know how much you love me and I am so grateful for it. And it means the world to me. And my spouse is the father or mother of my kids. And I hope that you can give me a little room to understand that I have to have this relationship, and that it's important that we have it in a productive way. Behind the scenes, I know you have my back and that's amazing, but I hope that you can help me out front here in terms of how we show up, because I want that to be a productive relationship. And the last piece of that is just saying, can I ask for your help with this? Because then your friend likely has to make a commitment to you, has to make a verbal commitment that, yes, I will help you with that. I will have your back. I will support you in that. I understand. It's a hard ask, and we don't always feel like we should have to ask it, but that doesn't really matter. Again, those shoulds are sort of baggage in our way a lot of times. Dismissing the shoulds and just going with, this is what I know to be true and authentic and meaningful for me, is probably more valuable.
Yeah. Also, because, the end of the day, people want to protect you. The people around you who love
That's
you,
right.
they want to protect you, and they're doing what they think they need to do to protect you. But if you can communicate, like you said, really at the end of the day, peace, gaining that peace between your ex and you, like, is the ultimate, right?
That's right. That's the priceless, as they say, right? Cost this much for this, but that is priceless.
Ultimate
Peace,
protection.
especially during the holidays. I mean, it's stressful enough without adding in all those other pieces. So to give yourself the gift of, I'm going to take the high road and I'm going to be that, start that process as being the adult, start the interaction by being the adult. That's a gift you're giving to yourself and your children. And that's a good way to look at it too.
So that kind of goes into also, we were talking before about in-laws,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough to deal with your own family around Christmas, because there's always a fight of like, where should we go? Where should we, it's like a crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so any suggestions there, especially.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a couple different, so interestingly for me and my family, I miss my in-laws, to be honest. I really love my extended family, and I've had to work hard, and it's not always the easiest, to maintain those relationships. So that's, one side of it, right, is just sort of feeling lonely without a family that you've built up over potentially many, many years and built traditions together. And then, so I've made it a point to know that they probably feel a little nervous reaching out to me, that might feel bad to them. But I like to reach out to them and say, I'm thinking of you, and that, I hope you're well and I miss you. And that's kept our relationship alive over, these years, and strong. And I'm really grateful for that. If you have in-laws, on the flip side, which I think is what you were more talking about, where the relationship hasn't always been so strong and you're worried about those encounters, that you might have dropping off kids or at a holiday event or whatever, I think it goes back to a lot of the same things that we're talking about. What would it look like for you to be the adult in that situation, whether or not you should have to, right? But for you just to say, happy holidays, and I wish you the best, excuse me. And so that they can stay at the high level. If someone's going to ask you a question, I can't believe that you're doing this and this, or that you showed up here, or that you said this about my child. I think the response in those situations, especially where kids are present or in a holiday situation, is not the time to engage in that, is exactly that, where, listen, I'm here for this one purpose, to drop off the kids or to pick them up or et cetera, limited time. I'm not comfortable having this conversation here. I hope that, we can move past this today, and we can maybe have a time to talk about it later, or not. I mean, maybe it's not even an appropriate conversation for later, and you just say, I'm really not comfortable having this conversation at this time. I'm going to go. You don't need to respond with a response that is an answer to what you're being, sort of baited into, right? There's no requirement that you answer the exact question that you were asked. And I think that's a really useful thing for people to remember in a lot of high conflict situations.
Especially like defending yourself, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't need to you know, talk badly about anybody else either. You can simply respond, this is not the time for this. I don't want to have this conversation. And you get to walk away. That is one of those communication choices that you have. You get to walk away. You get to not respond. That is a choice that you have, and it will serve you in the long run. It really will.
Yeah, the no response is a response also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it's the very best response.
Right. It's the also employing the brief, informative, factual, and firm
That's
method
right.
during
That's right.
with people that you are in high conflict with, and that's
right.
Great advice.
We say this a lot in our community, is that it really is keeping your power. You release that power, your power, you know, your personal power, because it takes a lot. First of all, recognize it takes a lot to do that exchange. It takes a lot to see the ex or the in-laws. It takes a lot, right? So just give yourself that grace and that, you know, like, I celebrate that, right? That's it. And then don't give your power away. You know, don't let them, if you let them see that it bugs you because that's what they're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. They want to get a response out of you. They want to get a rise out of you. And when I love what you said there, that keeping your power, that's exactly right. Keep your power and use it in the way that is meaningful for you, for something that's positive. Use it in a positive way for your kids, for yourself. And I love the other thing that you said, which is to celebrate, you know, the accomplishments that you have during this season. And I actually love that as part of a plan. You know, recognize that this is hard and it's a process that's taking work, and you're doing great. And even if you make a mistake along the way, we're all human beings. We're all going to make mistakes. It's not about whether we make them. It's how you respond when you do, and that you give yourself grace and forgiveness and move on afterwards. And to be able to say, you know, one of the strategies I'm going to have this holiday season maybe is I'm going to get myself a little gift that I wanted, whether it's a book, a date night with yourself at a restaurant that you love, whether it's a little, you know, the sweater you've been wanting, whatever. It could be something little or something big, but to treat yourself and acknowledge that you're working really hard and give yourself credit for the hard work that you're putting into making this season manageable for yourself and your kids is really a gift for yourself that you deserve and you should do.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up for time, but I did want to touch base really quickly on, you know, communicating with your kids. Like now that's like, you know, we've done the X, you know, I know there's so many different ages, and stages, and we can't go through every single one.
No.
And part of it is, you know, leading by example. So when you're communicating right with the ex-in-laws and the ex, then already that sets an example. But some of the things, you know, Heather and I talk a lot about is, you know, and we've gone through, and I mean, I've, you know, had 13 years of, you know, exchanging different holidays and so forth. So I'm really aware of it, is assuring them that they're not going to miss out that holiday with you just because that on that date, they're not, right?
That's
so
right.
What other suggestions do you think, you know, would be good to just assure them, you know, of that and communicate it with them?
Well, yeah, I love what you said, that assure them that it's not about the date. It's about the people who are together, right? It's about your family being together, however you define that and whatever it looks like for you. And the other thing that I really love is asking the kids what would be meaningful for you. If we did one thing this year together, or, you know, if you are going to tell your friends that this was the best holiday ever, what would it look like for you? What does that mean? You know, what was it that we all went ice skating one night? Was it that, you know, we opened presents over this, whatever it is? And short of, you know, this gift for this event, right? I mean, short of it being like, I want the you know, a new car and making that the thing that I mean, it might be, right? But something that you can do together as a family. I mean, more like ask them, what is something that we could do to make this special this year? What would be meaningful for you? And that can really be important because the kids feel valued, that their opinion matters. They're being asked for, input on this. I'd love to know what you want. How can we do that? And I think that can be a really great way to help, and to also remind them that you are going to be okay, even while they're with the other parent. If they're worried about that, that's something that a lot of kids worry about. And we all know it's not their job to take care of us, but it can be really an easy way to say, oh, well, I don't have plans. Try not to do that for your kids, because that does cause them a lot of stress. And so if you can say, I actually am planned with your aunt or uncle or your grandparents or whatever, and I'm going to do this, and I can't wait to see you the next time, when we have our holiday plan, so that they can sort of just find some peace around that too.
Great.
That's amazing advice, is to acknowledge that, because we tend to think that children are very self-oriented, but I think the holidays, there is a bit more reflection those changes.
They know, they feel it. Yeah. We're kidding ourselves if we don't think our kids know that kind of thing is happening. So admitting it and acknowledging it is important.
Mm-hmm. And reassuring. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, because and reassuring them, right? Taking that next step, because what we don't want to do is make them feel crazy for feeling like they've noticed something, make them feel like their observations aren't valid, or that their feelings aren't valid, and actually those are the kind of kids we want to raise, right? That are noticing that they care about their parents, that are attuned to our feelings too. So when they have that, it's a generous thing that they're saying, I don't want you to be by yourself, mom or dad, I don't want that for you. And for you to say, like, I so appreciate that. I love that you are thinking of that for me. And I'm so grateful. And I don't want you to worry. I'm going to be just fine. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait till you come back, and we're going to have the best time. And in the meantime, you're going to have a good time over there too. And I hope that it's, a good holiday for you, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, this has been amazing. I know you said that you also had a gift for anybody who's listening and want to provide their emails. You have tell us what.
I do. Yes. So what I've created is a communications planner. And this is a small workbook that I share with my clients. And we spend a lot of time on this actually in the beginning of our work together, figuring out, we create a divorce mission statement, we create a personal mission statement, and then a communications plan with messages and specific steps to guide your choices and actions through the process. So this is useful for the holidays, but it's also useful for any time during the divorce process. And it can be something that you revisit, for different phases of the process. You can always go back to it. You can update messages. It's just hopefully another tool in your toolbox, a way to really think through how you're saying the things that matter to you, what messages you're sending to the people around you, and hopefully to get some clarity for yourself around that, so that you can have those as a guiding sounding board throughout your process.
That is an amazing gift. So if someone is comfortable and they want to put their email into the chat, or otherwise you can also direct message us and we can send it to you that way as well. So and also Andra is a professional in our divorce community at our portal at splitfyi.com. You can find her services there. And I'm looking forward to more chats with you in the future. We have some other good topics to bring you on with. So
yeah, great. Well, I would love that. I wish everybody a really meaningful and safe holiday season, and hopefully low stress. Enjoy it. Find a way to get through with some, peace and calm, and take care of yourself.
And the key, which I love what you said, was give yourself the gift, because you deserve it.
You do. You do. You absolutely do. And I may not feel like it right now, but that amazing phase 2 is